Super Bowl 55, Brady wins his seventh, the commercials, the halftime show. We got it all covered. The good news and the bad news on the pandemic, and the big new child benefit that could be coming for American families. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Monday, February 8th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Good morning, Carlo.
Good morning. You know, I always feel like the day after the Super Bowl should be a holiday in America. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, I've been laughing actually about this because I think it was last year that you really made this push. I think that you were saying, though, that you think it should be just a Saturday. It shouldn't be Super Bowl Sunday. It should be Super Bowl Saturday. That was kind of your pet cause a year ago.
Oh, and how things have changed in that year. It should be, though. It should either be a Saturday or it should be a Sunday, but the Monday after should be a federal holiday. Nobody wants to work today.
Well, hopefully everybody just stayed home and celebrated amongst their family. But okay, in case there was any doubt or debate about who the greatest NFL player of all time is, I think Tom Brady put that to rest last night when Brady announced in the early days of the pandemic that he was leaving New England for Tampa Bay, a team that at that point had won a franchise total of 6 postseason games. A lot of people were skeptical. One strange NFL season later, Brady once again got the last laugh. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers routed the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 55, 31-9 on their home turf, cementing Brady at the age of 43, the oldest player to ever take the field in a championship game, as the greatest of all time.
I mean, I don't think there's a debate, and I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but it's absolutely incredible, and you just have to hand it to him. Of course, it wasn't all the quarterback. On offense, the 3 players who Brady personally recruited to Tampa with him, Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and Leonard Fournette, all of them caught touchdown passes. Gronk actually had 2. And their defense just put on an absolute clinic, dismantling Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs at pretty much every turn in that game. The game itself, I thought, was a little bit boring. But in sort of like the broader strokes of like the story, it's sort of the perfect ending, I think, to what was a really harrowing season. And I have to say, the NFL, I don't give them credit for a lot, but they did manage to play every single game this season, even though they weren't in a bubble.
If you were watching the game, I was seeing a lot of comments on Twitter, and I even thought this too, that it seemed like it was a lot more crowded in the stands than people would have expected. They were, of course, allowing limited seating of a few thousand people, about 7,000 vaccinated healthcare workers. But I think it was the cutouts that made it feel like the stadium was packed. So in addition to a live audience, there were tons of cutouts. Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted, Tom Brady was the 199th pick in the 2000 NFL draft, which tells me that occasionally, if not often, people assessing your future potential based on past performance don't know shit about anything. I kind of like that. A little racy for Neil deGrasse Tyson and for me to repeat it on a Monday morning on the podcast. But
that's okay, Jill. I like it. I mean, Tom Brady, he was playing in Super Bowls when I was in high school. It's like, I don't know I mean, he does have this like super weird diet, right? Doesn't he only eat like certain fruits and vegetables, and he drinks like 10 gallons of water a day or something?
He does. I was reading about his routine, and it's very impressive. He sticks with it, and good for him. I mean, the results prove that whatever he's doing is working. We're going to talk all things Super Bowl halftime show and commercials a little bit later in the podcast. For now, though, let's talk a bit about the pandemic. We've got good news, bad news. So the good news to start, COVID cases and hospitalizations pretty much in a free fall right now across the country. For the first time since early November, daily new reported cases are below 100,000. Vaccinations are increasing. 2 million shots were given on Saturday for the first time. The national daily average now approaching 1.5 million. Dr. Fauci saying he expects a lot more supply to start becoming available in March and April. So that's good. Now to the bad news. According to some new research, that UK variant, which is more dangerous and more contagious, is, as expected, spreading rapidly throughout the country, doubling every 10 days, and it is on its way to becoming the most prevalent strain, as the CDC had warned. Meanwhile, South Africa has stopped administering the AstraZeneca vaccine, and that's because it showed minimal protection against mild and moderate cases of the variant that's been spreading there. And that South Africa variant has already been confirmed here in this country as well.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding what they're doing down there with the AstraZeneca vaccine, because like you just said, this study, which first of all is a study of 2,000 people and mostly young people, so I don't know how meaningful that is, and I certainly don't know why they would stop it if it's just showing minimal protection against minimal or moderate cases. It's the severe cases that we care about, right? I mean, if people get like a little bit sick, I mean, okay, that's not really the end of the world here. So I'm waiting to see more on this South Africa study, hopefully today, to see if I really need to worry about it. The front page of the Wall Street Journal this weekend, Jill, by the way, they basically did the story that you and I have been talking about for the last week or two, which is that, we basically need, as a country, as a world, to just appreciate that COVID is going to be here as an endemic virus, the way that the flu is. So it's not just me saying this anymore, right? Even the Journal gave front page space to try and make this point this weekend, that we need to realize that this virus is going to exist in some form or another, and that's okay. That's sort of how viruses act.
100%. I think that it points to the importance of not only these vaccines, but also treatments, right? One of the troubling things about the South African variant is that it seemed to evade the monoclonal antibody treatments, the one that President Trump got, and Rudy Giuliani and Chris Christie, and because those really appear to work and be very helpful at preventing high-risk people from needing to even have to go to the hospital or get severe cases in the first place. So I think treatments are going to be extremely important. And as you say, I mean, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, in terms of the South African variant, wasn't extremely effective at preventing mild and moderate illness of that variant, but it did prevent all hospitalizations and all deaths.
Yeah.
And that is something.
It's more than something. It's the most important thing. I just want to make that. Yes. Yeah, it's everything. It really is. There was something I was going to say, Jill, but I forgot. Oh, just on the UK variant, we believe. I mean, that thing is going to become the most prevalent strain. We sort of knew that was coming. It's probably going to happen in the next month or so. But I believe that all 5 of the vaccines that are sort of in the either approved or in the process of being approved are showing to be effective against that strain, as opposed to the South African strain, which is a little more worrisome.
The South African and the Brazilian, there's something about those two that's making it less, that's making the vaccine a lot less effective. Scott Gottlieb, the former head of the FDA, on Face the Nation yesterday, saying that we're on track to vaccinate 150 million Americans by the end of March and another 60 million in April. So pretty soon, he says, we're going to be going from having a supply problem to a demand problem. By the way, they're seeing that in Israel right now. Actually, they are now offering. Really? They just crushed the vaccinations. They've by far per capita have vaccinated more than any other country in the world. They're now offering their vaccine to anybody 16 and older, and they're saying vaccinations are now down by about 50% because pretty much everyone who wants it, got it. For the most part, but it's, Israel's a fascinating case study because their hospitalizations down dramatically, deaths are down dramatically, but they have a portion of their population that does not trust the vaccine, very similar to us here. And they're still seeing spread despite the fact that, almost half that country has been vaccinated.
I'm much less concerned about that than a lot of other people are. And I could be very wrong about this, but my gut tells me that as more people in the United States get vaccinated, right, and as people hear about their friends and their neighbors getting it, maybe people who are very skeptical become a little less so because they see people they actually know getting these shots and not having some really bad adverse reaction, or like, turning into like a lizard person or whatever, right? And I think that, and I'm not trying to make light, because and there's plenty of people out there who are concerned about vaccines, and they're entitled to that. To that worry, I think. But I just think that as people in the community start to have it, there's going to be more of a demand from that. I think that, I think that, like Dr. Fauci coming out and saying get vaccinated, I don't think that's going to make much of a difference for people. I don't think people like you and I talking about it are going to make much of a difference. But I think when people see people in their communities who they know get these shots and then are able to live somewhat of a more normal life afterwards, I think that's going to go a long way.
I hope you're right. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I tend to think we're going to have a problem here. I think about 50% of this country is going to get the vaccine, but I think we're going to just hit this threshold, maybe 60%, where there's just a big chunk that doesn't want it. But
Right.
Hopefully that's not the case. Let's talk a little politics. In Washington today, as the Senate preps for Trump's impeachment trial to start tomorrow, Democrats are going to be unveiling a proposal for a major new benefit for American families. It's part of President Biden's $1.9 trillion economic relief bill. The legislation would give families $3,600 for every child under the age of 6 and $3,000 for every child 6 to 17 years old. The benefit would phase out for couples making $150,000 or single parents making $75,000. There is significant bipartisan momentum for a new child benefit. On the GOP side, Senator Mitt Romney has proposed even larger checks, saying that it is the best thing that lawmakers can do to make a dent in child poverty.
I gotta say, Mitt Romney, I have really warmed to him lately. Maybe because there's so few people in the Republican caucus right now who are showing any spine. But he is, and I give him credit. By the way, the Democrats would pay for the benefit by adding to the deficit. Romney's plan actually calls for eliminating other welfare programs in order to pay for this. So that's going to make it his particular proposal tough to get Democratic support, but I think it's very important that he's on board. Sort of like a big Republican to get on board with something like this is a big deal, and I think it suggests there could be real movement on this, whether it's part of this stimulus or if it happens later as a separate bill. Especially because it's not really clear to me if they can pass this in budget reconciliation, which is what they're trying to do for the broader stimulus bill. A study by Columbia University I found interesting. That study found that a benefit the size that Biden is suggesting would single-handedly reduce the number of kids in poverty by 5 million, including more than 1 million black children in America. So look, I mean, child poverty, that's one of those things that, like, it is a stain on this country, that we're the richest country in America, the richest country in the history of the world, and there's a single child in poverty, in my opinion. So look, I think something like this could be hugely beneficial. And like you said, it's something that could get real bipartisan support, because it's not an entrenched interest, right? Republicans and Democrats both see the political value in direct cash payments to families, I think.
It's also really targeted, just in terms of when you think about where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck when you talk about stimulus money. If you give $1,400 checks to a single guy who's living with his parents, who's probably still has a job, maybe not making a lot of money, but probably has zero costs right now.
It's going to GameStop.
Either saving that money or putting it into the stock market. That is not what this money was designed to do, right? However, if you give this money to families who have young kids who are struggling, that money immediately goes back into the economy.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think about it in terms. I think about this stuff so much more now that I'm like going to become a parent. But I've heard of people even in my sort of like social circle that say, like, I don't want to have a kid. I can't afford it. It's just not, putting aside all the other issues, like, worrying about the climate, or bringing a child into, a world that's so divided or whatever. The basic issue of just not being able to afford the costs involved with having a child in this country. And I think that has to do with the reason why we've seen the sort of pandemic baby boom that I'm a part of, notwithstanding, we are losing, our population growth is declining in this country. And you could
There is
argue that's
not
a
a
problem.
pandemic baby boom, actually. You're in the minority. The thinking was that there was going to be a baby
Yeah.
boom, and it proved the opposite. And I'm part of that other contingent where we were thinking about having another kid, but because you didn't have a baby that you had to take care of during the pandemic without any help. So
Right.
to you, it was like no big deal. I know a lot of people, and the numbers show it, is that there's a huge actually decline in the number of babies that are, the thinking was
It's
everyone's
funny.
staying home. There's going to be a
Yeah.
baby
Well,
boom. It's the opposite. And on the
it's
thing
funny you
about
say
money,
that,
I mean,
Jill. No, go
yeah.
ahead. No,
No,
I was
so,
going to say that it's
we've
funny.
thought about it. We've thought about it just even in terms of having a second kid, in terms of the money. It's like, do you raise one kid properly?
Right.
It's just extremely expensive to have children right now.
It's funny you say that because when we were at the OB, right? That's what it is. The obstetrician.
Yeah,
They were
whatever.
saying,
Yes, the doctor.
yeah, the baby doctor, the pregnancy doctor. She was saying that she was like, there's definitely been a Brooklyn baby boom amongst families who are having their first kid. So it's like there's a lot of people
Yes.
like us. There's not a lot of people like what you were saying who are having number two or number three.
It's true. It's because we've said this before. The pandemic experience is just so dramatically
Yeah.
different for people with or without kids. If you don't have kids, it's like, it's kind of, I don't want to downplay
Yeah.
it, but it's
No,
probably
it
been
sucks, but
a
it's
lot of
different. Yes.
streaming, and it's
Yes.
just okay. Let's talk a little bit of the Super Bowl again. The Weeknd, the halftime show, getting some mixed reviews for his halftime performance, with some saying that it lacked the energy of past years. What did you think, Carlo?
I thought it wasn't the greatest thing I ever watched. But I give him credit. I mean, first of all, he was singing. He wasn't lip syncing. He did the whole thing without any guest appearances or costume changes. That's, 13 minutes like that on a big stage. That's hard. And he did it. So I give him credit. And I thought it was kind of chill, which I think was maybe what we needed this year. Maybe a little bit low energy. I don't know if he really has like the drip or the gravitas to pull off a big performance like that, but I'm still a fan of his. I think his early work is still really good too. I was just
His
thinking
early
about
work. What is he, like the Bruce Springsteen who's been around for how many decades? This is
no, but
all still his early work, Carlo.
I guess yes, in some ways. No, he put an album out probably. He put an album out that I was really into probably 8 years ago, maybe. So that's what I mean by his early work. Am I turning into one of those people like? I like the Weeknd back when nobody else knew him. I just think it's so wild. Phil, in 2021, Super Bowl halftime, explicitly songs about doing cocaine and ketamine, and just nobody bats an eye. It's like people realize that's what he's talking about, right? I can't feel my face when
But
I'm with you.
I did not know what that was about, and I think you were the one who told me, and I'm like, okay. So he spent $7 million of his own money to put on that halftime show.
Really?
The Super Bowl or whoever it is gives you a certain budget, and in most cases, the record label of whomever the artist is
Yeah.
will kind of make up the difference. In this case, according to reports, he paid $7 million of his own money. I think he had a tough job, right?
Wow.
I mean, he couldn't do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The dancers or the background people had to stay far apart. And you say he's not the biggest name, that like he could have done with a couple of guest appearances from some other stars, but it was probably logistically really difficult to pull off. I thought it was fine. He's kind of getting ripped. There's a lot of kind of funny memes on social media right now, but I thought it was okay.
Talk about a thankless job, right? No matter what, you are just getting ripped to shreds. Remember what Lady Gaga did it a couple years ago? She was incredible, probably one of the top 5 or 10 ever. And like the thing that was trending on Twitter was people were saying that she looked like overweight or like out of shape. It's like you can't win, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the best and worst commercials All right, Carlo, kick it off. What did you like? What didn't you like?
Oh, God, I did not think the commercials this year were particularly strong. So just some notes that I scribbled down as I was watching last night. The Uber Eats Wayne's World commercial really it actually angered me, believe it or not. I actually got furious. If you,
Do tell.
um, okay, because first of all, so Uber Eats, so the commercial was for Uber Eats, right? And they were doing this tagline like "Eat local," I believe that was the tagline. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Uber Eats is destroying local restaurants by taking this 30% cut, especially in the middle of the pandemic. So this idea that like, oh, you're supporting local restaurants by ordering from Uber Eats as opposed to just calling them on the phone. I don't know. That really annoyed me. Another commercial that annoyed me. I was annoyed a lot. I'm going to put it that way. Was the commercial for
Poor
Indeed?
Becky.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. You're not kidding there. I was annoyed by the commercial by Indeed, that hiring platform, because it just showed this utopian world where you use Indeed.com to fire your resume off and you get a job and you put in the salary that you want and you get hired like that. It's like, has anyone ever actually used any of these platforms? That's not how it works, right? You fire your resume off into some HR black hole, never to be heard from again, even for jobs you're like overqualified for. So that annoyed me. The Bruce Springsteen Jeep commercial kind of annoyed me just because I was like, Bruce has done his whole life without being in any commercials. Like, why now for Jeep of all brands? I thought that like, he could have just, I don't know. The one commercial I did like though was the Scotch Miracle Grow commercial with John Travolta. Because I don't know if you noticed,
Yeah.
but he is rocking the dome piece now. No more rug. He is just like living his best life without the toupee, and I think it's great to see that, especially on a big stage like that. What about you?
Okay, so I thought just of note the Reddit commercial. You
Oh, that
probably
was a good one.
missed it if you
Yeah,
blinked
yeah.
because it was literally 5 seconds. And it was just a kind of just a message that they put on the screen, and saying, this was all we could afford. But the takeaway is basically it was a celebration of GameStop and what happened with that, saying underdogs can accomplish anything when they come together around a common idea. I also thought the Gwen Stefani Blake Shelton ad was hysterical. I don't know if you missed it, but it was
I saw that.
it was.
Yeah.
I just thought that was hysterical. It was a Verizon commercial. Oh gosh, no, it was a T-Mobile commercial. So I guess it didn't really do it for me if I didn't even know who it was about. It was a,
If you thought
a
it was their
T-Mobile
competitor.
commercial, but it was just hysterical with Gwen Stefani basically saying to Adam Levine she needs to meet somebody. And she's ready to start dating again. She says, I'm sick of LA guys. I want someone completely different, maybe someone from another country and someone cultured and sensitive who is not threatened by strong, confident women. And because of the service, because of bad service, all he heard was, I want someone completely country, uncultured, and threatened by a strong, confident women. And in walks Blake Shelton. So I thought that was hysterical.
Blake Shelton, by the way, really punching above his weight.
And finally, what is better than watching football? How about watching 70 puppies play football? Team Rough and Team Fluff faced off in the 17th annual Puppy Bowl for the Lombardi Trophy. Team Rough won, but the highlight came in the fourth quarter when Team Fluff, the real winner, of course, was all those dogs who are looking for their forever homes. In the past, 100% of the dogs who took the field were adopted. Love it, Carlo.
It's a very nice tradition that I enjoy, and I also want to shout out this company that we recently found out about here at Need2Know called Search Kibble, which does it's one of these search engines that every time you do a query like an internet search, it sends food to a shelter dog in need. So. As you know, I was talking earlier about ways to decouple yourself from sort of like the Google panopticon. This is another way to do it. Searchkibble.com. You can check them out, and I'll link to them in the newsletter today also.
And it's really cool, and it actually tells you it as a toll, a tally of how many kibble was earned. So, as you say, decoupling from Google and for a good cause.
Absolutely.
All right, that is what you need to know for Monday, February 8th.
All right, have a good day, guys.